fiscal conservative, not spending so much, not trying to make everybody redistribute the wealth. We've got to be conservative. And the Tea Party's responding through all about Second Amendment, and a lot of other things, and they're just worried about their jobs, and they're worried about whether the whole country is going to keep going on an economic basis, or if it's just going to turn into a socialistic redistribution of the wealth, which there is a big agenda, I feel, that's pushing and trying to water down the efforts of the average American. And the average American is worried, and they want somebody to go in there and will hear their concerns. Currently, in our district, District 1, we don't have anybody like that that's listening to our concerns, and that's why the Tea Party and a lot of the other even business people and mayors of the towns are crying out, saying we need some real strong change, and to the extreme right. And again, I think the Tea Party's great, and I think we need something like that so that the mediocre politicians will worry that they're going to lose their spots in Congress or the Senate.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Rusty, and the question is, would you support a voter education class as a prerequisite to issuing a voter registration card?
I don't know that I want a class, because that means somebody has to develop the curriculum, and who's going to do that? I mean, it all comes down to a source is going to tell me what I need to learn. But I think every patriot, every American, needs to understand their role and their responsibilities as an American. My family took classes on the Constitution in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Just a little constitutional primer with the National Center for Constitutional Studies. And I have all those 3 textbooks, and it was very helpful because I could see real life through my own real eyes and what was happening around me. And I think it helped me in the legislature, where we cut taxes for 8 years in a row, where I oversaw the cutting of regulation and reforming of regulation under the natural resources areas that I was put in charge of. And as the appropriations chairman, I had to go back and hack away at a budget. And I balanced it 4 years in a row and gave a solid conservative budget, paid for, no gimmicks, and $500 million in our savings plan, and we turned that over to Janet Napolitano, and it disappeared. And so just the common sense application of the responsibilities of Americans that you can learn reading the Constitution, studying your founders, I think would be sufficient. But I do think just in the general liberal arts education that this building is based on, that would be, bringing up those concepts would be critical to us and very, very beneficial.
Thank you. Paul?
To require a class, no. That restricts our rights as voters. But it should be a core part of the educational process that we've seen such a liberalization in our schools. Understanding the Constitution, understanding the forefront of our Constitution within our U.S. government, and then looking at the interface with current policies is all a necessity for our young folks to understand what's happening. But I could not say a mandatory voter registration upon them. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
To promote a voter registration class at the federal level, absolutely not. I think it goes back to the first question in regard to the progressive movement. I think obviously there's been a certain amount of indoctrination that has been done through the Department of Education that I would be fearful of. I think if an individual state such as Arizona wanted to institute a program that's obviously under the auspices of the states, and I'd like to see more state control over education. Again, that goes back to Mr. Zelensky's comment about reducing the size and scope of the federal government. I think it's time to reduce the size and scope of the Department of Education. The only thing that we seem to get out of the Department of Education is tests saying that our schools are failing, and I think we need to get more control at the local level. That gets back to Arizona again. Got Prop 100 to allegedly finance our schools, and we're sitting with a $64 billion to $100 billion Department of Education budget that obviously needs to be reworked. So the only way I would